Welcome to Mainstream Millionaires, where we're making millionaires the new normal. I was asked to create a video explaining what compound interest is, so today I want to provide a simple explanation of what compound interest is, why it matters so much to Warren Buffett, and why it matters to you. I'll also share the importance of making sure it's working for you and not against you. The simplest way to explain compound interest is it's interest earned on interest earned. Here's an example. If you have $100 invested, making 10% per year, at the end of that year, you would have $110. The next year, you would earn the 10% on the $110, which means at the end of the second year, your balance would be $121. The next year, you would earn the 10% on the $121, which would give you a balance at the end of the third year of $133.10. Why does this matter so much? Because it demonstrates the urgency for you to start investing as soon as possible and not to waste any of your most precious young years. Let's look at what $250 per month could turn into if you started investing at age 20 versus age 60, and what that means for the amount that you would have had to contribute versus the growth you made on your money. Meaning your money making money for you instead of you working so hard to make that money. We're going to use the S&P 500 historical average over the last 30 years of 10%. And I'm using this amount because it's very realistic for you to achieve an average of 10% annual return in a number of mutual funds and EFT Index Funds. I'll create a video at some point on that, what I look for in a fund, so please keep an eye out. If you're 20 and you invested your $250 per month until you're 65, it would become $2.1 million. Age 30, $813,000. Age 40, $295,000. Age 50, $95,000. And age 60, $18,000. You can easily see why being intentional with your money as early as possible in life can make you financially secure and very comfortable without needing to put in the serious grind that most people do later in life when they actually start considering retirement around age 40 or 50. And don't think for a second that you have to stop investing at age 65 or that you even need to retire if you're doing something you love. When you have money in the bank and you're financially secure, you get to decide what you do with your life, whether it's sitting on a beach, sipping an ice cold Corona, or getting up at 6 a.m. to go to the golf course, or working a few hours a week at a job that you absolutely love. Money gives you freedom, but common sense lets you keep it. And compound interest lets it grow on its own while you're sleeping, and it can grow very quickly. Let's look at Warren Buffett for a moment. As I record this video, Warren Buffett's net worth is $121.8 billion. Of that, $121.5 billion was accumulated after he turned age 50. And of that, $118.5 billion was earned after his 65th birthday. His wealth accumulation is not just because of his skill in choosing investments, but it is largely the result of compound interest. Warren Buffett became an investor when he was only a boy at 10 years old, and by the time he was 30, he had a net worth of $1 million, which is about $10.2 million in today's money, adjusted for inflation. Warren Buffett is 92, so he has been investing for 82 years. Here's what those numbers would look like if you continued to invest until you were 92. If you started at age 20, you would have $28.6 million. 30, $11 million. Age 40, $4.2 million. Age 50, $1.6 million. Age 60, $600,000. Let's also look at Warren Buffett as though he was more of a normal person and didn't start investing until he was 30 years old and chose to retire at age 60. Let's also assume that at 30, he was actually doing a little bit better than his peers, but not phenomenal, and we'll start him off with a net worth of $50,000 at age 30. And since he is highly skilled at investing and can generate an annual return of about 22%, quite a bit higher than the S&P, we'll use that. By the time he reached 60, he would have had $19.4 million. That sounds like a lot, but when you consider that it's actually 99.9% less than his actual net worth today of $121 billion, you can conclude that Warren Buffett's financial success can largely be tied to the longevity of his investing career. Truly, the length of time that he allowed his money to grow is the real secret to his extraordinary wealth. Warren Buffett is a wise investor. He does not risk what he cannot afford to lose. I can't say it enough. If you unnecessarily risk a large portion of your investments, you risk losing all the potential gains that you could have accumulated without effort as you try to recover your losses. Let's say you had $100,000 to invest over the next 30 years and you chose to take $30,000 of that and put it in a new fat investment that is supposedly going to generate huge, monstrous returns over the next 30 years. And let's say that investment actually crashed, or for some reason you just weren't able to get your money out. Let's see how much you could have lost over those years. $100,000 becomes $1.7 million, but $70,000 will only generate $1.2 million because it took you nearly 4 years to get back to the initial $100,000 you started off with. It is important to maintain a humble attitude when you're investing. Accumulating wealth does require taking some risks, being optimistic, and using a skill set. But keeping money requires a mindset that recognizes your wealth can be taken away from you. In other words, you need a healthy fear and humility to help you focus on making wise choices so you can keep your money and let your money continue to grow. It requires frugality and an acceptance that you can't control every outcome, but that you want to control what is controllable. So what is controllable is that I invest in assets that I believe to be stable and diversified, but that also have reasonable returns for the amount of risk that I am willing to take. And like I said before, don't risk what you can't lose. Take Jesse Livermore, for example. He was one of the world's greatest investors in 1929 and actually made the majority of his wealth during the Great Depression, where more than a third of the stock market was wiped out in one single week. Jesse Livermore had shorted the market, hoping the stock market would decline, and he was right. As a result, he actually became one of the richest men in the world. But fast forward to 1933, only 4 years later, confident and cocky, Jesse had leveraged himself silly and accumulated incredible amounts of debt, which ultimately brought about his demise, and he ended up losing everything in the stock market. How could one of the richest men in the world become so broke and eventually take his own life? He risked what he could not afford to lose and was not able to cope with the shame of his mistakes. Many people can gain wealth, few people can keep it. That requires humility, frugality, and just plain old common sense. Okay, so let's talk common sense for a moment and look at the flip side of compound interest. Your credit cards are also earning compound interest, but not for you, for the credit card companies. We could almost say that credit card companies are investing in you, hoping that you are going to stay stuck in a rut, unwilling to do what it takes to free yourself from their claws. They want you to be broke and spend, so they can continue to enjoy the benefit of your monthly contribution going into their pockets. Let's say I was watching Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines, and I loved a design they did in a kitchen. So I decided to hire a contractor to redo my kitchen so it could be just as beautiful and updated. And let's also say I didn't have the cash to pay for that new $25,000 kitchen, as most people don't, and decided to pay for it using debt, as most people do. I decided it would be easier for me to make monthly payments of $400, and I put it on a low interest credit card of only 12%. It would take me 8 years and 3 months to pay it off and cost me an extra $14,429 in interest. It would also cost me an additional $17,773 in potential gains lost if I had been investing that money. That's a total loss of $32,000. more than the original cost of the kitchen. And that's if I never spent another penny on that credit card. But let's face it, if I was willing to put a $25,000 kitchen on there, I'd probably be willing to add my little coffee addiction to it as well. If I had simply invested that $400, I could have saved it all up in 4 years and 5 months, half the time I would be paying for it if I used that credit card. And I wouldn't be losing a dime to the credit card companies. Not to mention, if it took over 8 years for me to pay it off, I'd probably be ready for another new updated kitchen. That is the best mentality I could have if I wanted to stay poor forever. Never forget that credit card companies charge you interest on the balance of your credit card. What that means is that they charge you interest on the interest they already charged you. That means if you have a balance of $10,000 with a 20% interest rate, at the end of the first year, you would have a balance of $12,000. If you don't pay that off, that hefty 20% interest charge will be on the $12,000, not the original $10,000. This can go on forever, and the only way you can avoid it is by not owing them any money. Compound interest working against you is a wicked trap and can be really challenging to free yourself from. But compound interest working for you can help you earn unimaginable wealth. It did for Warren Buffett. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful in understanding a little bit more about compound interest. This was a topic request from one of my viewers. I'm here for you. So if you have any questions or requests, please feel free to write them in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more $1 million moments. Imagine the day when your money makes more than you do.